Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Katie, and today I'm going to be talking about some book recommendations for older protagonists. So I know a lot of people are always looking for older protagonist stories because, let's face it, a lot of stories in fiction are pretty much based around 20-something characters. I'm in my 30s now, and I like a little bit of an older protagonist as well. And honestly, I feel like older protagonists tend to be one of my favorite books. So just because I don't know if the characters are more seasoned, they have more life to tell. I don't know, but I thoroughly enjoy them. So I have a ton of book recommendations. I have like 20. So we're going to go through them as quickly as possible. And I was going to go through my bookshelves. I'm not. I'm going to give myself a little bit of an easy time with this video. So we're going to do graphics. It's okay. We all need some breaks here and there. So let's go ahead and go through them. So most of these are the main characters, are the older protagonists. But some of these books are either going to be side characters, but they still play an important role. So we're just going to put it out there. So most of these characters are going to be probably upper 40s and older. I would consider 40s to be older protagonists only because most of them, as I said, are 20s. So I don't consider 40s old. I don't. You're as young as you feel. And right now I feel 85. So, all right. Let's get going. I have 2 books by Katie Powner that I've read that I really enjoyed, and they both have characters that are older protagonists. So one is Where the Blue Sky Begins, and the other one is When the Road Comes Around. And each one has older protagonists that kind of are dealing with, life's problems. One has to do with family problems, Where the Blue Sky Begins, or no, When the Road Comes Around. And Where the Blue Sky Begins, she's kind of at the point in her life where it's kind of hard for her to get around and she needs help. So each of the characters have their own separate problems, and God brings in somebody to kind of help them along the way and to really help them out. But also, the younger characters also get help from those older protagonists as well, whether it's through life, through the way they share their faith and their story. I just love the way that Katie Powner kind of puts younger and older protagonists together in her stories. I just think it works really, really well. It has a great feel to the characters' lives that she combines those two together. The Suitcase Sisters by Robin Jones Gunn. Book 1 and 2 is out. Book 1, we are seeing 2 best friends travel to Africa, and then book 2, they go to Italy. And so it's pretty much on their journeys as friends going to these different places. And I will say I'm not exactly sure how old they are. I know the one has a teen daughter, so I'm guessing they're in their late 30s, early 40s. I'm not exactly sure how old they are, but around that age. So they are a little bit of an older protagonist, but I love their friendship. I love that these stories aren't geared around romance, like at all. There might be later on, I'm not sure, but I just love their friendship. I love kind of their like 5-star pretty much travels. It's just a nice escape to read about these places and just have a great vacation through these characters' views. So I have a really great time with them. Sarah Brunsvold's books, I believe that honestly all 3 of her books that are out are with older protagonists, but I'm going to talk about 2, and that is The Atlas of Untold Stories and The Extraordinary Deaths of Mrs. Kipp. And The Extraordinary Deaths of Mrs. Kipp is actually about, I don't know how old the older protagonist lady is, but she's fairly old, but she lives in a home in a living facility, and she pretty much is told by this reporter girl who doesn't really want to write this woman's obituary pretty much, but this woman has a lot of life story to tell. And so Mrs. Kipp just is such an incredible character, and her faith is just so incredibly strong, and the way she shares her love of God with everybody that she meets, and it's just such a powerful story. I loved it. So in the other one by her, called The Atlas of Untold Stories, we're following 3 different characters, 2 sisters and a mother. So the mother is the older protagonist, and they're all going on I was going to say car tour, that's not right, road trip. On a road trip. They're going on a bookish road trip, which who wouldn't want to go on a bookish road trip, right? So we get to see kind of their connection, and each one of them has something going on in their lives that they really, need help with, and just their connection and reconnecting together as a family, because they kind of been a little bit separated in the past. So just really, really liked all the characters together. Grandma Ruth Doesn't Go to Funerals by Sharon J. Mondragon. Now, the main character is actually a bit younger. It's the granddaughter that's the main character. But Grandma Susan is also like a huge character of the story. And she's pretty much bedridden. And so she tells her daughter to go to these funerals or go to these parties and let her know all the gossip, even though she's not a gossiper, but she is. She really is. So we're seeing just Grandma Susan and her antics, and getting the local gossip through her granddaughter. And it's a very, very sweet story, and it's funny, and I just had a great time with that one. Melody Carlson also has quite a few books with older protagonists. I'm going to mention two. The first one is Second Time Around, and this is a contemporary romance where a flying woman, I believe in like her late 40s, early 50s probably, but she decides to just sell her home that she's, her and her husband had worked on forever. I believe she's divorced, if I'm not mistaken. But she ends up deciding to move into her aunt's little shop to make the shop her own. Well, there's this contractor person that kind of wants to buy her shop to create a mall, and she says, that ain't happening. So there's romance in it, but it's a Hallmark feel, but I actually really enjoyed this one. It's one of my favorite Melody Carlson books. I really enjoyed this one. Then the other Melody Carlson one I'm going to mention is A Quilt for Christmas, which is my favorite Christmas book by her. I very light on the romance feel. It's a side character. But this one I'm following an older woman who pretty much doesn't really have anybody for Christmas. And she's like, I'm okay with that. I'm going to be at home. I don't really want to decorate too much. But there's this little girl that comes to her apartment, knocks on her door and says, hey, my mom's in the hospital, but I want to get her a gift. So they decide to make a Christmas quilt and bring the community in to make the quilt. And I just really enjoyed the characters so much in that book. With Every Memory by Janine Roche, I believe the character is probably going to be in her late 40s, early 50s for this book. We're following a woman who has lost the last 8 years of her memory. She was in a train accident, and her youngest child passed away, and so she's pretty much missing the last 8 years of her life. And her daughter's older, her husband's changed, she lives in a brand new home, she has no idea what's going on, and so she's trying to figure out, how her marriage got this way, why her daughter is suddenly treating her like a stranger, and that's such a really impactful story, and I really, really did enjoy it. This Is Where It Ends by Cindy K. Sproles. If you don't know, Cindy K. Sproles is probably one of my all-time favorite authors. Her characters just stick with me forever, and this book is no exception. This is actually my first book by the author and wasn't the last. I own all of her books now, but this one is about an older protagonist woman who has been married pretty much her whole life. Her husband brought her to like the backside of this mountain. She had no connection with other people, and before he passes away, he says, I have this like little, box, and he says, keep that secret and don't even open it. So she doesn't. But this reporter guy comes, and he wants to know the secret hidden inside the box, as well as, a so-called treasure that may have been stolen years ago, and her husband may have been involved in it. And so it's just the relationship between the reporter and this woman that is such a great storyline, and their relationship and friendship, and it was so good. I really loved it. And the last one I'm going to mention is a duology, Love Overboard and Hearts Away by Shannon Sue Dunlap. And the main characters are these 4 older women who I believe they're all in their 70s, I believe, maybe 80s. Can't remember exactly. But they all live on this cruise ship, and they're called the Shippers. And they pretty much deal with the romantic antics of the crew, and they really try hard to make the crew members with either other crew members or people they know. But it was just such a wonderful read, great for vacation, lighthearted, funny, love the characters, and it's just a mixture of the Golden Girls and Love Boat. If you love those, you will love this series. So it's definitely my favorite, one of my favorite books of all time, just because it's so funny, lighthearted, and you're gonna love the characters. I really hope she gets to write more, because I think she said that that the second book was probably going to be the last, but she does have ideas. I'm like, you really need need to write more. I want more of these beautiful ladies. So hopefully she'll write more. I hope so, because I do love that series. But I have other books by her that I need to read anyway, so just not that series, but that's okay. All right, so those are some books. I'm sure I have more as well, but those are some books with older protagonists that I think you'll really enjoy. All of these, honestly, were probably at least 5 stars. Honestly, the ones I mentioned were between 5 and 6 stars, so you're going to have some really great reads. All right, so I hope you all have a wonderful day. Let me know if you have older protagonist recommendations down in the comments. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all in the next video.